What's up, guys? This is going to be the last video that you guys should ever have to watch as far as trying to find a profitable strategy to trade with. I'm going to show y'all exactly what I do, and there's going to be a lot of value in this video. If you listen to what I'm fixing to say and what I'm fixing to show you, and you start applying it to your trading, you're going to have all you need from a trading standpoint. Now, what's going to get you and what gets most traders is your psychology, your emotions, your lack of self-control, who you are outside of the markets. It's going to be a direct reflection of the type of trader you're going to be, right? If you have terrible habits in your life, if you're fat, if you're out of shape, if you're undisciplined, if you are a bad person, right? You treat people poorly, if you are greedy, if you're obsessed with money, if you're obsessed with sex, if you watch porn. I'm not saying you'd be perfect. Everybody messes up. But if you do something over and over and over again, that is a lot deeper than just messing up. That's who you are, and you got to fix that if you want to be the best trader you can be, right? So that's the first step. All right. The second step is the actual strategy itself and what your edge is in the market. Okay. So I'm going to show y'all what I do. You guys know my story. Started out as an ICT trader. Well, I didn't start out as an ICT trader. Started out just basic retail. And then about a year and a half into my journey, discovered ICT. And from there, that's when I finally started making money. So nothing against ICT. There's a lot worse ways for a new trader to start trading. You can definitely make money with these concepts, just like you can make money with any other trading strategy. So so started out with ICT, and then I just evolved from there into what I'm doing now. And yeah, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff ICT says, a lot of his claims I disagree with. But as far as his strategy and like I just said, any other strategy, you can make it work with proper risk management, proper psychology. You can make it work. So I'm going to show y'all what I do and what I have found to be the best way to trade these markets. It's consistent. It repeats. It's pretty mechanical, right? There is some discretion, but overall it is mechanical, and it does require some patience, right? What I'm fixing to show you, we get on average, at least 2 or 3 of these setups a week. Now there is ways to trade outside of what I'm fixing to show you, obviously, but why would you do that if the market is giving you consistently 2 or 3 opportunities each week? Most weeks more than that. If you have a system that's doing that for you, you are set. Like, that is incredible. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. So you already know the biggest part of my system is the volume profile, right? If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that's primarily what I use. Okay, so what I do first thing every morning is I go on Sierra chart. Okay, this is where I see my order flow. This is where I get my levels. All right. So on this right-hand side, we have a volume profile, a chart that's showing me the volume profile of each New York session. So if we zoom out here, we can just see it's showing me every New York session as far back as I want to go. Okay, so I'm not going to break down the volume profile, and I've already done that in previous videos. I'm keeping this pretty short and sweet here. All right, so if we go over here, so today's Wednesday. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm using the previous New York sessions volume profile levels. Okay, so today's Wednesday, so this morning I went on Tuesday's New York session yesterday, right? So if we go over here, we'll see, let's see here. So this is Tuesday right here. Okay, so what I do is I get my 3 levels off this volume profile. Okay, so we have our value area right here in the middle, this lighter gray shaded area. This is our value area. So there's 3 levels on this value area that I want to mark. Okay, there's the value area high. So let's go ahead and get that and put it on our chart. So 5828.50. All right, so let's go back to trading view and let's mark that. All right, so 5828.50. All right, so we have that. Let's label it so we know what it is. Let's get our point of control now. So this red line right here, this is the point of control. So the point of control is the level with the most amount of volume in that range. Okay, so essentially it's your highest volume node in this volume profile. Okay, so that's our point of control, and that's at 5826.50. All right, so let's go mark that out. All right, we got that. Let's label it so we know what it is. And then we want to mark out our value low. Okay, so this is our value low. It's the low of the value area. Okay, so that's at 5815.75. All right, so once you do that, you have your three levels that you need. Okay, so you can use TradingView for volume profile. It's the same concept. We have our value area point of control, same exact thing. I use Sierra chart because it's more accurate. Today's a great example of why you don't want to use TradingView for order flow. TradingView uses tick data versus a platform like Sierra chart or Exo charts. They use an actual data feed. So you're getting real actual data versus TradingView. You're not actually getting the real data. Okay. Today's a good example. If we mark out the volume profile for yesterday's New York session, you're going to see the levels are way off today. So Tuesday 9:30 to Tuesday at 4 o'clock. That's what we're going to mark out. And as you see here, the levels are way off. Okay. So we have our value high right here at 5826.25. We have our point of control at 5816.25. So versus Sierra, it's literally 10 points away. And then our value low is 5815.75 versus what TradingView is showing 5812.75. So it's not always like this. A lot of times they end up lining up, but stop using TradingView for order flow. We have actually tested this. I've never used TradingView for order flow, but I know people who have, and we've compared the data as far as like using the footprint charts and all the numerical data that you get through a footprint chart. We compared it to Sierra chart, and the numbers were way off. Okay, so you don't want to be using TradingView for order flow. TradingView is great for charting and executing, but as far as order flow goes, you need an actual order flow platform. Okay, I recommend Sierra chart or Exo charts if you have a Mac. Okay, so first things first, we get our levels. So we have those. Okay, so now that we have our levels, the next thing I do is I go on the 4-hour and the daily time frame, and I want to get an overall macro look perspective of the market. I want to see if we're in an uptrend, are we in a downtrend, are we in a consolidation. I just want to see what we're doing on these higher time frames. So what I did this morning was we have this this up close candle right here on this was from Wednesday, March 5th. So this is an area of supply. Okay, so what you do is you just mark out the body of the candle before the move happens. So this up close candle before this big move down, that's an area of supply. So I mark out the body of that candle, and as you see, yesterday we ended up trading into that, and we traded off of it. We had a nice rejection off of it, and if we go on the 4-hour, going into this morning, we can see that this move that we're having up here, we're kind of stalling out off that area of supply. Okay, and then we're also, if you mark out a Fibonacci retracement from this high to this low, you'll see that we hit 50% of this range of this move down that we had. So we hit, technically we ended up hitting discount of that range. So we're also seeing a move off of that. So from here, I don't know what's going to happen. We can make new lows. We could just rebalance this price leg and go higher. Who knows? Who cares, right? I just want to get an overall look at the market and kind of see what we're doing on these higher time frames, okay? And then from there, if I can, I go to the 5-minute and I'll line up what I want to see as far as a daily bias goes with these volume profile levels, okay? So for example, if I'm wanting to see a move higher, right, then I want to see us, like up here, for example, I want to see us hold above this value high. I want to see us retest that value high and get a move higher off of it if I'm bullish, right? So I just make the levels fit what I'm thinking for my bias. And that's just a prediction, right? I'm not stuck in that idea. I don't care if the idea is right or wrong, okay? It's just, it's good to have a plan going into the market opening if you can. You can't always, right? But you want to have a plan if you can, okay? So I plan what I'm looking for each morning in the market, and from there, I'm waiting for these levels to get hit, okay? If we're outside the levels, which there are some days where we are outside of them, those are the days you don't want to be trading. The market isn't balanced at that point, and it's just not high probability. There are ways to trade the market on days like that, but the best days are when we are trading off these levels, okay? So you have your levels marked out, you have your higher time frame narrative, if you can form one, right, your idea. And from there, it's waiting on these levels, okay? So this morning, for example, all right, we opened up, let's see here. Yeah, so we opened up below the point of control, okay? And at this point, I'm waiting. I don't care about this, okay? We're below point of control, and the market is just kind of sideways, okay? All I'm waiting for, okay, is what's called a slingshot, all right? I'm waiting for a slingshot through these levels, okay? That's confirming what I want to see. So at this point, market opens at 9:30 right here, all right? If I want to see a move higher, I want to see a slingshot through this point of control and through this value high. If I see that, I'm going long. I'm getting in longs, and I'm taking that trade, okay? And normally when that happens, we end up getting a trend higher, okay? You're at least going to get 10, 15, 20 points out of it, and that's a good day, right? That's all I'm looking for, and I'm getting out. I don't care about catching the whole move, okay? And I'll show you an example yesterday, actually. The trade I took yesterday, it's a value high trade. I'll show you that in a second. But as far as today goes, we ended up pushing through this value high. If we go on our footprint here, we'll see at 9:30. Let's adjust this. And all right, so this is that push through the value high. So this 588 at 9:35, this 588 delta through the value high, once we traded through it, we were at like a positive like 1500 delta, okay? And as soon as we hit this supply area, this wick right here that we left behind, we went from a positive 1500 delta to a positive 500 delta, okay? So I consider anything over 1,000 a slingshot. So we did slingshot this level, 1500 positive delta. That's a confirmation for a long there, if we hold it, right? Which we didn't hold it, okay? We had a positive 1500 delta through this value high. As soon as we hit this area of supply, strong big order came in. We went from a positive 1500 to a positive 500 delta. At that point, I'm not getting in this trade. I want to see a slingshot of this level. A slingshot is a delta over 1,000, right? A delta over 1,000 through one of these levels, that's a slingshot. That's what I want to see. That's my confirmation for every trade I take, okay? So we didn't get that, all right? So I'm staying patient, and I'm waiting, okay? At this point, we failed to hold this value high to the upside, all right? We failed this, and at this point, I'm pretty bearish. We end up stalling out at this area of supply on the higher time frame, and I'm expecting a possible retracement to rebalance price before we either go higher or we could sell off and go lower, right? We don't really know. We also had this big weekly opening gap over here, which a lot of times we fill. So yeah, overall, I'm expecting us to possibly have a pretty big move down today. But I'm waiting on these value areas. The value areas tell you what price wants to do. So we fell this value high, and then as soon as we slingshotted through the value high and point of control to the downside, I went short, okay? And I'm fixing to show you an example of a slingshot through the order flow. All right, so that was this candle right here. So this is the initial, it wasn't technically a slingshot, but this was the candle through that value high. For me to go long there, I want to see a positive at least 1,000 delta, okay? So we had a 588 delta, so not super convincing, and then a 37 delta following that. And then after failing to hold prices higher, what do we see? We see a negative 2,100 delta back through the value high and point of control to the downside. That is a short confirmation all day. That's money, all right? You see that after failing, especially after failing that value high, this is a perfect confirmation right here. So as soon as we got that negative 2,100 delta at 9:45, I went short, all right? Now you're probably asking yourself, okay, you're short, what are you targeting? Well, I'm targeting the next level, which is the value low, all right? So go short here, target this value low here, and I get like 6 or 7 points out of that trade. Nothing crazy, not really, I'm looking for a little bit more than that, but it was a good opportunity, good scalp, whatever, all right? What I'm really waiting for is either a bounce of this value low or a break through it and us to start trending lower, right? If we break a value level, we end up trending in that direction, usually, okay? Especially after failing an upside auction right here, right? So we end up pushing through the value low. And at this point, again, I don't care what the market does at this value low. I couldn't care less, right? But I'm just waiting for what it wants to do. And I'm going to know what it wants to do through a slingshot confirmation, right? So again, what time was this at? This was at 9:55. All right, so at this point, when I'm out of this trade, I'm expecting a slingshot through this value low, but I'm waiting. And if I get it, I'm going short, all right? So if we go to, 9:55, let's go there on the footprint, and we'll see 9:55, this candle right here, negative 2,400 delta through that value low. That is a slingshot. Anytime you see a slingshot through a level, that's your confirmation, right? And then we had a negative 2,600 at the level right before. So we're super weak, super weak. And guys, you're probably wondering, why is a slingshot a confirmation? Why is this any significance at all? Because what you're seeing here, a negative 2,400 delta with bearish follow through, you're seeing that the sellers are in control. We have 2,400 more sellers than we have buyers in this candle. That is super bearish, right? So the order flow, it's giving us an inside look. It's giving us a confirmation at these levels for what price wants to do. If we bounced, let's say we get to this value low and we end up bouncing it, it happens all the time. Like I was saying, I don't care what happens. I'm just waiting for that confirmation through the order flow. We could have bounced this value low and gotten a positive slingshot off of it. And then I'm long and I'm targeting these levels up here, right? I don't care what it does. I'm just waiting for that confirmation that either the buyers or the sellers are in control based on what I'm wanting to see, right? That's what the order flow is telling you. And if anybody, talking about ICT here, because he's the main person who turns people off of order flow, if anybody's telling you not to use order flow, they're an absolute moron, and you should never listen to that person ever again. Stop watching their content, all right? This is super useful, and it's one of the only advantages that you have as a retail trader over these bigger players in the market. So start using order flow. Delta specifically, you don't need anything else. In my opinion, if you just do what I just told you, mark these levels out, and you're waiting for price to trade through these levels or off these levels, and you're waiting for the delta of the order flow to confirm your idea. And then from there, the risk management, that's all personal preference. You can do whatever you want with that. Me personally, this is a big move off this level, right? And when this happens, I only get in a part of my position. So as soon as this candle closed, I entered in part of my position on this next candle, expecting a possible retest, because we almost always retest. And if we did get that retest, I was going to add to my full position. And then from there, I'm in business, right? I'm loaded up and I'm ready for this thing to do its thing, right? So another thing I was looking at on this trade specifically, if we go back to the order flow, we'll see, let's see here. Yeah, so this is a fair value gap right here, right? You ICT traders, you know what a fair value gap is. This is a fair value gap. So this wick to this wick, we have this gap right here, fair value gap. And what we have inside this fair value gap is what's called a naked point of control. So this yellow box right here, this is indicating the point of control of this 5-minute candle. So as you see, this candle at this level, the point of control, 1,398 volumes. That's the most amount of volume out of this entire candle is at this level, right? So anytime we have an untouched point of control like this, it's called a naked point of control, we can expect price to trade back into that area, which is kind of what we did right here. So a naked point of control is considered an unfinished auction, and price draws back these unfinished auctions, and we end up seeing moves off of them almost all the time. On that retest, this is what we were retesting to. And then from there, I sold off of it, and then that's all she wrote, right? So that's another thing I was looking at. So naked point of controls, those are really good tools to use as well inside this strategy. And then from there, as far as targets go for this trade, I had this low right here marked out and this low right here marked out. So I ended up getting out. Again, I mean, this thing sold off a lot more, but ended up getting out. I was happy with my two trades, the profits I got from them. Ended up getting out at this level right here. So we ended up pushing through it, got out somewhere in here, and I was done for the day. So 2 for 2 there, 2 really good setups. That's literally what I do every single day, right? I mark these levels out and I wait for a confirmation with the order flow at these levels. If we're not at the levels, I don't trade, right? I'm telling you guys, we get at least 2 of these setups, sometimes more than that, most of the time more than that, a week. And like I was saying earlier, what's going to get you is yourself, right? If you can't be patient, if you can't wait for this to happen throughout the week, then you probably shouldn't be trading, okay? So wait for this, wait for your confirmations, and I'm telling you, you will become profitable. You will start making money. This stuff is not that hard, right? It really isn't. It's just controlling yourself, okay? Controlling yourself, being patient, and having a system. And this is a system that works, okay? I'll show y'all one more example from yesterday real quick. This is a value high example, or value high and point of control. So we'll go to our Sierra chart and we'll mark out Monday's levels for Tuesday. So let's see what our levels were. Value high was a 5815.50, and then our point of control was 5814. I'm not going to mark the value low because there's just no point. We didn't use it. All right, so if we go to, oh yeah, this is money right here, guys. So going into yesterday, again, we're in an uptrend, right? So I'm expecting higher prices, but then again, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm expecting. These value levels tell you what price is going to do. So mark out the levels, guys, and honestly, just wait for price to hit the levels, and don't be stuck on any idea, right? Wait for the levels and wait for the delta to tell you what price wants to do, okay? So market opens 9:30 yesterday. So this candle right here, we opened above the value high. So at this point, I'm bullish. For me to take a trade within my system, if I'm bullish at this point right here, I want to see a retest of these levels, right? And that's exactly what happened. I want to see a retest of the value high or the point of control, and I want to see a slingshot off the level, and then I'm going to target these pre-market highs right here, okay? I'll put a screenshot of the trade on the screen now so you guys can actually see I took this trade and I'm not bluffing. Not that it matters, but there are some people who are like that. So, yeah, so at this point, we end up coming into our levels here, and I'm waiting again for the slingshot. I want to see a slingshot off these levels. That's going to trigger my long entry. And then, like I said, I'm targeting these highs up here. So let's go to the order flow for that day, and I'll show y'all exactly what happened. All right, so we're on Tuesday. This is the sell-off into the value high and into the point of control. So what you're seeing right here, a negative 1,129 delta, okay? So from a delta standpoint, that's a slingshot, right? But what are we doing on our chart here? This is why the levels are so important. That same candle, this candle right here, we didn't even close below the value high. We wicked into it with a strong negative delta, and we held above the value high. So that's telling me we're absorbing sellers, right? Sellers are not in control here. We're holding this area, which is what I'm expecting. And if we go back to the footprint chart, you'll see negative 1100 delta, negative 26 delta, positive 969 delta, right? 234 delta. So we're just holding, we're staying stagnant at this level. We have medium impact news on this day at 10 a.m. So that could also be why we're just kind of chilling out until 10. But then, as you see right here, 10 a.m., or I'm sorry, 10:05 a.m., we have a 1,000, which is a slingshot through our value high. So the 10:05 candle, if we go to trading view, we'll see this is the candle right here. What do? We trade through this value high, which is what I'm looking for longs. I want to see a push through value high with a confirmation that buyers are present with that push, okay? So we push through value high, we close above it. That's a confirmation right there. And then we go to our order flow, and what do we have? We have a slingshot through the level. So right there, that is your trigger to go long. Right there. Go long there. And what you see is, what do? We go right for these highs right here. This gave you, if you go from value high to these, let's just say this high right here, that is 14 points, 15 points almost, which is amazing for the S&P, okay? So that's an example of a long setup off the value high. I know this may seem super simple, but it works. And this is how the market actually moves. The reason why volume profile, the value area specifically work, is because the market moves off an auction, and price will trade back into these previous value areas of fair value where there was a lot of volume traded in that previous session, which is why these levels work so well, especially when you pair it with actual data, as in the order flow, the delta. When you pair these two things together, you know when to get into a trade, you know when not to get into a trade. And if you're patient and you control yourself, you're going to be in business. That's really it for this video, guys. That's literally my strategy in a nutshell. I don't do anything else. I don't look at anything else. I mark out these levels each morning. I wait for price to get to these levels. And I use the delta, I use the order flow to confirm trade ideas off these levels. And then from there, take my trades, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I do. And this stuff gets super deep. You can get pretty complicated with it. You can add a lot of stuff to this. I don't recommend doing that because this works. But guys, order flow is king. Straight up, if you're not using order flow, you're really missing out. It's really, really good. Gives you a lot more confidence at these levels, gives you the confirmations. But yeah, guys, that's it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time.